Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the 5-Star Zone. I'm your host, Rico Beard, and we're going to do a wrap up of week 14 in the Big Ten, more specifically 2 games, and one that had a gigantic effect on the Big Ten championship game. Let's jump right into that game. The Michigan Wolverines go into Columbus and beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The Michigan Wolverines go into Columbus and beat the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. The Ohio State Buckeyes at the crib, and they beat them 13-10. Ohio State kept shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. 2 red zone interceptions, two missed field goals. Michigan did just enough to hand Ryan Day his 4th straight loss. And my goodness, I got to think, if you're Ryan Day and you're Ohio State, if you can't beat this Wolverine team, and this may be the worst Wolverine team going back to the Brady Hoke years, maybe you just can't beat the Wolverines. Maybe you just can't beat Michigan. You had the $20 million roster, and you could not get it done. And watching this game, I kept saying it was the proverbial, you don't let your rivals hang around. You don't let them hang around. Now, what I'll never understand is sometimes coaches get caught up in the pissing contest, which is called the running game. If you're the Buckeyes, you have probably the best wide receivers on the field, and you chose not to use them in a way because the statistics say whoever runs the ball more wins. And I say, damn that statistics. You had the better receivers. Michigan didn't have the running backs, and you still lost the game. Oh, by the way, Michigan didn't have their best receiver in Colston Loveland. They still won the game. This is embarrassing if I'm an Ohio State fan. This is embarrassing because now it leads to, what do you do with Ryan Day? Immediate reaction is, well, you got to fire him. Until you think, okay, he's 1-4 against Michigan. He's 47-1 against every other team in the Big Ten. So you want to think about that. Do you want to fire a coach because you think you're better than the coach? Hey, a lot of programs have done that. A lot of programs are still struggling to get back to where they should be. Look at Florida. Look at Florida State. Look at Miami. Look at Tennessee. Look at a lot of the programs that, oh, we could do better. We could find somebody and we could regress them. Oklahoma. Yeah, that's not working out too well. Nebraska. No. Look how long it took Michigan after firing Lloyd Carr to turn things around. And they did that with a cheating scandal. It's not easy to do when you fire a big name coach. Texas, UCLA, USC. You don't automatically bounce back. You don't automatically hit that home run higher. You sometimes are stuck out in the wilderness for a long time. So if you're Ohio State, what do you do? If I'm the athletic director, I have no ties to Ryan Day. I would simply walk in. And it's problematic because you're going to lose the fan base, because this is the fan base and these are your boosters. These are your alums that are supplying you with the money for the NIL. Now, we'll get to this a little bit later, and maybe in another podcast we can really break it down. But there's going to be a new ruling that looks like in April, schools will be able to just pay out of pocket so we can quit the farce that is the NIL, except you'll still have the NIL because the NIL will be the bacon. It will be the cherry on top. It will be the sweetener to a deal. When the school is tapped out of money, they can go into the collective and still pay people over what you wanted to do. Think of it like if you can go over the salary cap in football from another outside organization, every NFL team would take advantage of that, especially if the outside organization was based on, passionate fans. Now, back to Ohio State. What do you do with Ryan Day? I mean, if I'm the athletic director, if you're going to make that move, you walk in there and you say, hey, we may lose our fan base because you can't get the job done against Michigan. You're a fantastic coach against everybody else, but we do not want a modern-day John Cooper. So here's the deal. You win the Natty. I'll forget this happened. We can move on, and next year, you got to find a way to beat them. You lose the Natty, you lose in the playoffs because you're going to be in the playoffs, but Ohio State may have cost themselves a home game. They may have to go on the road now. And I just don't think Will Howard's a good quarterback on the road. I just don't think Will Howard's a good quarterback. Let me just put it like that. now you're putting yourself in a difficult spot. If you lose another game and you don't win at all, the new athletic director at Ohio State has a tough choice to make. Because if you bring Ryan Day back, you will lose some of the fan base. Because let's face it, your job is to not lose to Michigan. And you're like, well, who would they go get? Guys, I think the obvious answer is sitting right there on Fox broadcast. You go get Urban Meyer. Here's the thing. Urban's been gone long enough that most people have forgotten why he got fired, why he was released, why he was let go. Most people have forgotten about that, and they don't care. Urban Meyer knows how to win. Urban Meyer knows the passion that you want in beating the Wolverines. And Urban Meyer knows how to collect and get money. He can recruit. He can do all of these things. And you're Ohio State with unlimited money, with bottomless pocketbook. Look, Ryan Day was going to be like, he's like Urban Meyer light, except for he can't get it done against the rivals. Urban could. Urban beat Michigan. If I'm the Buckeyes, I make this thing happen. I promise him the collective. I give him the money. I give him all the resources that Ohio State has. This won't be anything new for them. You just got to get him to give up, the cushy job of Fox. But if you watch any of the broadcasts, you could tell where his heart still lies in Columbus. So if you're going to make the move, tear the Band-Aid off and just go forward. Because I don't think Ryan Day is going to get this done. I think it's now become mental. When you come in with a roster as good as what he had on paper and you can't beat this Wolverine team, the Wolverines are only going to get better, folks. Wolverines are going to jump into the party. They're going to start spending money on players. If you couldn't beat this piss-poor Wolverine team, and I only say that compared to the Ohio State roster, this is a Wolverine team that finished year 7-5. This is a Wolverine team that lost to Illinois, lost to Indiana, lost to Washington, lost to Texas. You couldn't beat them. You couldn't get it done. That has to raise serious question marks of, can this man get it done? 5 years in, 1-5 record. No, I don't. I don't have any faith. I don't have any trust. If I was a booster, I probably would yank my funding or seriously limit it, because I don't know if this man can actually win games. Not the big game, not the game that's most important to the people in Columbus. If you're Michigan, you're Sharon Moore. My goodness. Okay, here's the thing. Michigan's 7-5, but I could argue that Michigan probably had the best 7-5 year that they could have ever count on. Because in this 7-5 year, you beat both rivals. In this 7-5 year, you got to bring home your trophy games. In this 7, you beat Michigan, you beat Minnesota. You beat a USC team that came into the big house that everybody thought was going to run you around. You actually ended up not bad. You're going to go to a really good, decent bowl game. And now all of a sudden, your collective has kicked in. You got rich donors and boosters who are paying you millions of dollars. You've locked up and you've taken the number one QB, Bryce Underwood, you stole him from LSU. As bad as this season seems, if you're a Wolverine fan, when the dust settles, you got to look around and say, you know what? This may not have been as bad as we actually thought. I never thought I would say, but this was probably the most successful 7-5 season ever. Because it was. Because, okay, you get to go bowling. You did all of this without having a quarterback. And later on in the draft, you get to watch players on your team get selected in the first round. You know what? In the end, nobody's going to remember the first 11 games. They're only going to remember this is the year we got Bryce Underwood, and this is the year we beat Ohio State again in Columbus and kept the streak going. Now, you're going to address some issues, and you got to get a better quarterback. You're going to have to go to the portal, because I don't think Bryce Underwood is going to be the guy that leads them next year from day one. But yeah, now also after the end of the game, there was the fight, the ugly incident of Michigan trying to plant the flag. Here's what I got to say. There's a couple things. I'm okay with the whole flag planting thing, because it's like, okay, you won the game. If you want to go out there and showboat, fine. Now, it comes at a cost. you have to realize the other team has pride and they may fight you back. They may try to punch you in the face. So if you go out and try to plant your flag, you cannot play the role of the aggrieved of, oh, we were just out there having some fun. They need to win with class. No, you don't get to do that. It's the old saying, you F around, you find out. You went out there with knowing exactly what Ohio State was going to do, but you did it anyway because you won. You don't get to clutch your pearls. You don't get to act aggrieved. You don't get to act shocked. You don't get to play the victim role. You don't get to do that because that takes away from it, okay? Now, if you're Ohio State, from your side of the thing, where was that fight? Where was that passion? Where was that desire for 60 minutes? It wasn't there. So Michigan coming out there, and now all of a sudden you want to get big, bad, and tough, and you want to fight? Man, that's fake bravado, man. You should have did that when it counted. You should have made that play. You should have did whatever you had to do to win the game, and you didn't. Big Ten slapped them with $100,000 fines, dropping the bucket for both teams, spraying the pepper spray in the air. Here's the thing. I can't be mad at that because the one thing, going back to the MSU-Michigan tunnel incident, when the whole fight took place in the tunnel, there was like 5 Michigan police officers in the tunnel who these old guys were simply there. Let's be real. They just wanted some tickets to the game and to be standing on the field. They didn't want to have to do any work. And guess what? They did absolutely nothing. Zero. And they let the fight happen right in front of them. I often said that those officers should have been disciplined and never allowed back in there because they didn't do their job. Officers on the field sprayed the pepper spray in the air to clear the area. Plain and simple. That's what they did. They did their job. They did what they were paid to do. Now you may be like, well, they didn't have to go overboard. They had to gain control of the situation. Was the fight ending? It may have, but they wanted to make sure the fight was done. So yeah, and I guess the funniest thing is, I don't even know. I found out later that I guess the Michigan sideline reporter Jason Avant, he's one of the few Michigan receivers that I've liked. He got in there and he grabbed the flag and he kept Ohio State from tearing it up. And it's like, okay, I guess Jason, you forgot that you were just there to report on the game, and you went back to the days where you played. You may not want to blur those lines. Then again, you work for the Michigan broadcast, so they probably won't say anything to you. But note of advice: if you're covering the game, you're covering the game. You're not a part of the action. Unless somebody's dying in front of you or there's somebody in harm's way, not a piece of material, you just kind of sit back and you do your job. All right. In the end, Ohio State, if they do not win a national title, in my world, they'd be looking for a new coach. If I was the new athletic director, I can't keep this man around. You can't beat this team. You're here to beat this team. You're also here to win games. Check. You're here to win national titles. Well, you haven't done that. Got close one year, and Marvin Harrison Jr. got injured against Georgia, but you didn't win that game. And you're here to beat Michigan, which you have not done. So, in essence, look, it's a higher standard being the coach of the Buckeyes, and you're not living up to that standard, plain and simple. All right, let's go to the other team in the state, and it's the Michigan Wolverines. I mean, not the Michigan Wolverines. Let's go to the other team in the state. It is the Michigan State Spartans. And, man, with a bowl game on the line, did they come out there and stain the sheets? Jonathan Smith, once again, did not have his young men prepared, did not have his young men ready. Hey, put it this way. If football was only who does what on the opening drive, Michigan State would be one of the best teams in the nation. They can always go down and score a touchdown or a field goal on opening drive. And then after that, nothing. No adjustments, no nothing. And that has been the problem all year. That is a consistency thing. That is a coaching thing. That is a coaching problem, especially coming out in halftime where there's only been 2 games all season where Michigan State has actually outscored their opponents in the second half. And one of those games is Prairie View, and I'm not counting that game. So really it's just one, and that was Maryland. That was a comeback victory at Maryland, which early in the season made you think that this team was actually going to be for real. And then you found out that they were fugazi. They were fake. They were not real. Did Jonathan Smith, is it fair to judge him after 1 year? Yeah, it is. It is, because I said that, you know what, success for this team, the bare minimum was 6-6, and you had that staring you in the face at home on senior night, and you couldn't get the job done. You didn't just lose. You got train wrecked. You got jail sex. You got boat raced. 41-14. You were never in this thing. And it really stems to a play call early in the game. It was 10-7 Rutgers. Michigan State had the ball deep in Rutgers territory. It was a fourth down play. And it was like fourth and one from the 12-yard line. You had two choices. You had three choices. You chose the wrong choice. A, you kick the field goal with Jonathan Kim. You tie the game. You keep this thing close. B, you line up and you run a quarterback sneak. You chose not to do that. C, you turn around, hand the ball off 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and hope that your running back can get there. Oh, wait, you did that the play before and you got stopped. So what did you want to do? You want to run that again. Huh? Yeah, that's coaching. That's not having the Jimmies and Joes. I mean, yeah, it's on players. It's on coaches. It's on everybody. Just, you know what? The season is over. I had an argument with Rico Cooney. He works for the On 3 Spartan Network, and he was saying, hey, they need the bowl games. And I'm like, actually, they don't. Who's going to get better in these 15 games? Like, what is 15 more practices going to do that you couldn't do over the spring, you couldn't do over the summer, you couldn't do over the season? Oh, but 15 more practices. Not really, because most of these players probably won't be here anyway. That's the problem with Spartan football is, you know, your biggest concern in the offseason now is whether or not you're going to be able to keep Nick Marsh. And from what I understand, sounds like he wants to come back. Sounds like the family wants to come back. And you just need Michigan State to just actually come correct and give him a good offer to stick around. If not, you're going to get Keon Coleman. You're going to get Derek Harmon, where they're going to take the money and run a Simeon Barrow. And I can't blame him, because I look at this team and I don't see the excitement in this team. I don't see where it was encouraging. I see a team where in 5 of your losses, there was a point differential of 138 points. In 5 of your losses, you lost on average by 20, a little under 28 points. So you lost on average by 4 touchdowns to Oregon, to Ohio State, to Indiana, to Illinois, and to Rutgers. This was a team you're supposed to be on the same level, and Rutgers comes into your crib and beats you that badly. 138 points differential between the teams. That's not there. That's unacceptable. That's what I mean. You could be a 5-7 team and have encouragement. That was a 5-7 team with no encouragement. That was a 5-7 team that you got to be a diehard Spartan fan to say, okay, I'm just going to be patient, because in the transfer portal age, you're not afforded that patient. In the transfer portal age, man, you better fix this thing, and you got to fix it quick. And now that means the bar is just going to be higher for Jonathan Smith next year, where 6-6 to me was acceptable. Next year, I think the floor, you're looking at 8-4. That's it. Yeah, not only do you have to become bowl eligible for the first time in like forever, you're going to have to win. And for those saying, well, Mel Tucker left him with nothing. True. But Mark D'Antonio left Mel Tucker with nothing. And in year 2, Mel Tucker went out there, hit the portal, did what he had to do, and gave Michigan State their only good season since 2017. So that's why, okay, you may be right. But Tucker fixed it in a year. I need to see what Jonathan Smith is going to do. Will he embrace the portal? Will he embrace going out and getting players? And I'm not saying stealing players from Alabama, Ohio State, or Miami. I'm saying, can you do a little money ball? Can you go and can you go into the portal and find, you know, an all MAC player, all WAC player, going into the group of 5 and getting the best player from there? And it's like, well, you could do better than that. But I'm like, hey, guys, look, Jaden Reed, he outgrew Western Michigan, comes to Michigan State, becomes a great player. Now he's doing it in the pros. Can you go out and identify those types of players? Now, from what I'm understanding, MSU is going to go after 4 O-linemen. Thank God, because your O-linemen suck. They can't get it done. There is no depth. I don't know if Aiden Childs is that bad sometimes, or your running back game is that bad, or you just can't block them. Let's face it, Michigan State hasn't had decent O-linemen going back to the middle heyday of D'Antonio years. I think, like I said, I think when the last Allen brother left the team was the last time you had any NFL O-lineman, it seems like. So, yeah, you're going to have to go out there. You're going to have to improve the O-line. You're going to have to improve the D-line. You're going to have to improve the defense. You got to be able to bring pressure. You cannot go 6 or 7 games in a Big Ten conference with no sacks. That's a major problem. There's a lot going on. I don't know. Jonathan Smith kind of seems like a fish out of water right now. He may be a good coach. He may be a great man. He doesn't seem like a fit right now at MSU. And a lot of times that happens. It happens that, you know what, you don't fit what the fan base wants. I'm looking at that Luke Fickell in Wisconsin right now. I don't think he's a fit at Wisconsin. Could be a really good coach. He took a team to the college football playoffs with Cincinnati. Just not a fit for the culture of Wisconsin. Not a fit for the culture of Michigan State, which I really don't know even has a culture. The culture right now is losing because that's all the football team has done. Like I said, bowl game in 2017, because in 2016, that was the anomaly because they went to bowl games. They went to Big Ten championship games. They went to the playoff. They went to the Rose Bowl, had a bad year in 2016. 2017, they go to the Holiday Bowl. And then after that, they fell off a cliff. They popped back up at the Peach Bowl under Mel Tucker with K9 and Reed and Naylor and all of those guys. And then they fell back off the cliff. I don't know if Jonathan Smith's going to be able to get this team up off the mat and get them going. We got to wait and see, but there's a ton of pressure. You got to bring in some people. I'm going to judge this man based off of what he does off the portal. That's going to be the most important thing to me because the draft class is really kind of lukewarm. And you got to be able to go after players. I mean, I look at the fact that, Nick Sanders, Barry Sanders' kid, I think he plays for Seahome. Man, kid would love to come to Michigan State. Not really offering him. I don't know what their strategy is. I don't know what they're trying to do, and nobody does. And that's what's making it so hard for fans to rally around and embrace him. You're only embracing him now because you're like, well, it's a first-year coach. You got to give him a chance. If he's not going in the same direction as where the fan base wants him to go, and he's not really giving you instructions on what he's going to do, I don't know. I don't think you're going to get 4 years to turn this thing around like you did at Oregon State. So we'll see. We'll see. But I can judge him better depending on what he does by the end of the year when the portal is done, and when the dust settles, and I'll see. But for another year, Michigan State not going bowling. Did they hire the wrong coach? I don't know. But I can't sit here and give him a ringing endorsement. I can't sit here and get angry if fans want to just not renew their season tickets. I can't get here because there's so many problems going on internally at MSU. You got too many collectives instead of just combining all of them and making one gigantic collective that people know where to donate. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. People want to donate money. They just don't know where to donate money. If I'm going to donate 6 to 7 figures to some place, I want to know some history. I want to know there's some accountability there, and it's not some fly-by joint that's basically some telemarketer over the seas is in charge of. Get your stuff together, and you'll see what happens. But right now, you're not really embracing this stuff, and you kind of see it on the field. You kind of see it off the field. You got to get yourself together if you're the Spartans, if you want to do this, because right now, the Big Ten is in 3 different tiers. And if you're a Michigan State fan, you got to realize you're in tier 3. Look to the left, look to the right. You will see Purdue, you will see UCLA, and you'll see Northwestern. And you'll see yourself. You're in tier 3. Tier 2 are teams that go to bowl games. May not be great bowl games, but they go to bowl games. Tier 1 are teams that go to the playoffs. You're in tier 3. Your season ends every November, and it becomes basketball season. If you don't want to be in tier 3, you got to get your stuff together. You got to fix this problem. And tick tock. You don't have time to sit here and be patient. That's just how it is. That's college football. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. I'll be back a little bit later on. Oh, by the way, happiest person in the Big Ten, I forgot to mention this, the Penn State Nittany Lions. Why? They backdoored their way into the Big Ten championship game. I don't think they wanted to play in the Big Ten championship game. because they were going to go to the playoffs without going to the Big Ten championship game. Now, if they get embarrassed by Oregon, it could actually affect whether or not they make it into the college football playoffs. So, yes, you're in the Big Ten championship game, and I don't think the Nittany Lions wanted to be in that game. They did not want to play Oregon. They kind of just wanted to keep quiet in the party, stand over in the corner, and make the playoffs. Now you got to go out there and actually earn your spot, and you got to show everybody what you are. Remember, they only played one real team this year, and it was Ohio State, and they lost to Ohio State. Now you got to go play Oregon in Indy. We'll see what happens. Me and my man Harold will break that game down a little bit later on this week. Thanks for watching, subscribing, and liking the 5 Star Zone. I'm your host, Rico Beard.